Hello and welcome to Inside Iraq. I'm Jassim Azzawi. For decades, Peshmerga fighters were considered a force for the protection of the Kurdish revolution. Today, charges of power abuse by top Peshmerga commanders are very common. Critics charge KRG President Barzani and Iraqi President Talabani have deliberately blurred the lines between security forces and the Peshmergas, rendering them an oppressive tool to suppress dissenting voices and to ensure their own power and wealth. Human rights organizations as well as independent Kurdish figures have made allegations that the Peshmerga run prisons in which fellow Kurds, Arabs and Turkmen are routinely tortured, a fact acknowledged by senior Kurdish figures, and a reality that begs this question. Has power corrupted a noble cause and good men? They used to call themselves Peshmergas. Nadeem Baba reports.
Any targeting of Kurdish civilians will result in massive resistance by Peshmerga forces. That was the message from the leadership in the autonomous region of Iraqi Kurdistan as the Turkish army stepped up its cross-border drive against PKK rebels. As soon as word came through of the Turkish incursion, Massoud Barzani, Iraqi Kurdistan's regional president, rushed to the border area as thousands of fighters took up new positions. Most of them were from the military wing of Barzani's political party, but others were from the Peshmerga, the de facto army. Estimates of the size of the Peshmerga forces vary from 80,000 to 300,000. Iraq's transitional law stipulated that they and other fighting forces would disband and be integrated into the new Iraqi army.
Now, this was never done with the Peshmerga, who always maintained their independence almost as a symbol of Kurdish independence, and the idea of being a Kurd is all very much tied up with the Peshmerga. In fact, I think it's true to say that almost every boy that grows up in the Kurdish regions wants to join the Pesh.
Some Iraqis are critical of the relationship between the Kurdistan Regional Government and the Peshmerga. They say the issue of federalism is being used to hide widespread corruption and human rights abuses against anyone who speaks out against the KRG. But in the north, the fighters themselves continue to command respect.
Generally speaking, there is a great deal of support for the Peshmergas. There is a great deal because the Kurds see them as the guarantors of the gains that they have made. They also generally believe that the Peshmergas are the ones who had fought for Kurdish rights over the past 37 years.
If the stalemate over Iraq's provincial elections law is a sign of how tough it's proving to reconcile various political forces, the Turkish incursions are raising questions about who's in charge of defending the nation's sovereignty. Nadeem Baba for Inside Iraq.
To examine the role of the Peshmerga and what lies behind the allegations of power abuse, I'm joined from Erbil by Falah Mustafa Bakr, head of the Foreign Relations Department of the KRG, and from London by Farishta Rapper, spokesperson of the Kurdish National Congress. Welcome to Inside Iraq. Mr. Bakr, let me start with you. What lies behind the allegations that the lines between security forces and the Peshmerga has been deliberately blurred by the political leadership in Erbil?
Indeed, we are proud of our own history. The Peshmergas have contributed greatly to the history of our people. They were the force who defied Saddam Hussein and protected our people. They are the symbol of our dignity, and always they are appreciated, and their role is valued all the time. I don't know about these allegations, but if it were not for the Peshmerga forces, Kurdistan region would have become like the other parts of Iraq today.
If that is the case, Farishta, these allegations of top Peshmerga commanders abusing their power and political contacts are not true.
I disagree with Kak Falah, because either they never read the newspaper or they never listen to the Kurdish intellectual writers and the other people from the ground of Kurdistan, or they are completely isolated themselves from not to hear a single word, a single criticism, even a single comment to put stuff forward to make things better. There are a lot of allegations. It's allegation, I could say, by many people, the truth and the fact. Let's, before even go through, distinguish between Peshmerga and security force. Peshmerga is ended over around 2001, around when the Kurdish safe haven is done. Peshmerga They have got a group called a Peshmerga. They are a noble group. These people fought for under Saddam Hussein. They fought for make the life better. They fought for freedom of Kurdistan. They fought to get the repression and that abuse of power, the corruption. What they are doing at the moment, what they are doing is a security force, which is a security force divided between two, one for PUK, one for KDP, and they are serving the two parties. Abuse of power will not take place. Well, if you disagree,
that's not the case. The Peshmergas, the Peshmergas have continued their role. The Peshmergas, those who were in the mountain prior to the uprising of 1991, they continued their fight after 1991, and we were facing a lot of challenges in the region. We had a transition from being a revolutionary movement in the mountains to be responsible for the civil society and the running of the affairs of the people in this region. We don't claim that we have made mistakes, but we have learned a great deal. If you go back to the history from 1991 to 2001 and then to 2003 and now, we have made great steps forward. We don't deny that we had also ups and downs in this region, but this is...
Could you count them, those great things you have done recently? Peshmerga was great. I told you there are two distinguished between them. There are Peshmerga and there is a security force at the moment on the ground. Nobody ever have any comment about what contribution, what the courageous people, every individual, they put in life before death. They sacrifice entire family life.
What evidence do you have, Farishta, that security forces in Kurdistan, in Erbil or in Suleimania, they are amassing power as well as...
We cannot call them Peshmerga.
Fine, you made the point very clear. What evidences do you have those security forces are abusing their power, amassing personal wealth?
The evidence from daily newspaper from Kurdistan, Kakfala, if you just excuse me 1 second. Every single day I spend a couple of hours, go through every single website, Kurdish newspaper. I get a regular contact from Kurdistan. There are a lot of abuse. Whoever is taking a commander and taking a job, especially with the role of the security, they are doing all sorts of abuse, and there is, because it's a huge barrier between
Can you tell us what kind of abuse? People. Don't talk in general terms, please. Tell us some specific things. Don't talk in general.
Well, okay, could you tell me, you say we have done a lot of things. Could you count them, 1, 2, 3, until today, what you are being or giving or helping the people to make their life better? Could you tell on the national TV,
you've been to Kurdistan yourself, and you have seen the progress that has been made in the region. You have seen the efforts to rebuild the infrastructure. We have a lot of challenges. We had political and security challenges. If it were not for the security, the intelligence, and the Peshmergas, this region would not have been like this.
Mr. Bakr, let me ask you specifically about a few issues. Is electricity in Kurdistan far better than in the rest of the country? And more importantly, is unemployment and growth is far higher than the middle of the country and in the south?
Now, Kak Falah, would you ever tell me...
Let him answer. Let him answer.
The economic situation in Kurdistan is much better than the rest. We have been able to rebuild the infrastructure that was ruined, but we had meager budget in this region. We had a lot of challenges, and we have been trying our best to improve and solve the electricity problem. But we cannot do it alone, because that needs two things. First, fuel has to be secured for this, and second, gas has to be explored. Therefore, we have been waiting for Baghdad since the first Prime Minister Alawi. We were going to Baghdad in order to get Baghdad's approval. Since the past, the former regime did not allow Kurdistan region to have a separate power plant in this region.
We're still suffering from some of the mentality in Baghdad. Asking the following questions. What happened to the billions of dollars through oil for food, or even now the allocation of 17% from the Iraqi treasury going to KRG? What happens to those billions? Because people are still
this is a very good question. This This is a very good question, because we have asked the Americans, the CPA and the UN about the whereabouts of these funds. 4.5 billion US dollars were unspent, and they were in the UN accounts when the program ended. We are not responsible for a penny in that program. We did not sign the Memorandum of Understanding, and we were not implementing the program. It was the UN who was implementing the program on behalf of the government of Iraq at that time, because they did not recognize the KRG authorities.
So the culprit is the UN and the US.
From 2003, after, yes, and after the fall of the regime, we have been getting some budget from Baghdad. All the money that has come from Baghdad, the budget, has come to our KRG, the cabinet. It has gone to our parliament, approved, went back to the ministry, spent. It's all transparent, and the KRG defies and challenges everybody that can come with anything.
Go ahead, Farishta.
Kak Falah, can I have a minute here, please?
Go ahead.
You are on the power for today, how many years? From 90 to 2008, almost 17 years. You finished 70 years KDP and PUK without any interference of any other outside government. Today, exactly today, this morning in Kurdistan, people in the house, under the people, have not a drop of single water for over 6 days. There isn't. They had electricity from the government 2-3 hours before. Now this month, that even hour a day is cut off. If they have the money, they have to pay a private generator to provide them some electricity. And there are hundreds and thousands of Kurdish families.
I'm afraid I don't agree with you. It's not the case that people do not have money.
Well, you have to disagree with me because you don't see them, Yes, you don't see them.
I see them because I live in Erbil and I move around. No, absolutely. I am with the people. I drive myself. I do not hide myself from people.
TV?
And I'm the most open person here.
Are you telling me on the national
and
TV?
Falah Mustafa Bakr, let me take a break now, and then when we come back, I'm going to ask Falah Mustafa Bakr what lies behind the allegation of torture in Kurdistan. Stay with us.
The Kurdish contribution to Iraq has been so positive. The Kurds need to balance long-term aspirations with more pressing short-term needs. My advice to them is to carry on making wise choices. Sir Jeremy Greenstock, Director of the Ditchley Foundation.